Most notorious cold case killings in modern American history. And this morning, the man known as Keefe D is breaking his silence from behind bars. Nearly 30 years ago, became one of the nation's most notorious unsolved murders.
Hey, Keith, Metro Police, come over here.
Then in 2023, a breakthrough when prosecutors charged this man with ordering the hit, the only person arrested for Shakur's murder, who now tells ABC News authorities have the wrong man.
I'm innocent. I ain't killed nobody, never did ever kill nobody. They don't have no evidence against me. Came and put me in Las Vegas.
61-year-old Dwayne Keefe D. Davis says the night of the murder, September 7, 1996, he was in Los Angeles, 300 miles from the Las Vegas intersection where Tupac Shakur was gunned down.
It's crazy, man, because it never should have taken this long to figure out who was really behind what happened to Tupac. Listen to this. I've always felt like that whole situation had a setup written all over it. They lined Tupac up, and deep down they knew if he had been the one behind the wheel of that BMW, he might have maneuvered out of danger, and none of this would have ended with us nearly 3 decades later still saying R.I.P. Tupac. You won't believe it. He was barely in his 20s, still at the beginning of everything. Now hold up. No matter how people try to spin it, when this finally reaches trial, they're saying every key witness is getting called to that stand. They're even planning to pull security footage straight from the MGM. And let's be real. Right there on Koval and Flamingo, you already know cameras are everywhere, watching everything. But regardless of how anyone tries to justify it, what they did to Tupac was foul, no way around it. Girl, this wasn't just a rapper, this was somebody with family, people who truly loved him, and he never deserved to go out like that. And that's the part that hits. One situation turned into another, and before you knew it, it exploded into that whole East Coast versus West Coast war. At the end of the day, I have to ask, who is still riding with Tupac? If you're really a fan, drop that R.I.P. Tupac in the comments and hit that like button if you believe this was a full setup. Because everything points to them knowing exactly what they were doing. They really thought they would get away clean, and that's always the mistake. Because anytime you move like that, thinking there are no consequences, it comes back on you 10 times harder. You can't step into situations like that thinking there's an easy way out. Tupac opened doors for so many people. Rappers, singers, the whole culture felt his impact. Hold up, he wasn't just one-dimensional either. He could rap, he could vibe, he had personality, humor, everything. Tupac stood on what he believed in, even if it made people uncomfortable or straight up angry. But looking at the evidence now, it feels like investigators are going back and examining everyone who was in Tupac's circle to understand how things escalated this far, which is why they're breaking down every detail of that night. And listen, people like Gene have been saying for years that P. Diddy might have had a role in what went down with Tupac, and that right there keeps the whole conversation alive. Nobody was really buying it at first. Hold up, I don't even know how much truth there is to these claims about Snoop Dogg being involved in anything against Tupac just because of issues tied to Suge Knight. But listen, I really hope that's not the case, Snoop Dogg, because I've always rocked with you, Snoop Dogg. At the end of the day, people need to remember that Snoop Dogg and Tupac were close like that. They were in the studio together, making hits. They were on stages together, performing and getting paid. And then suddenly everything changed as somebody stepped in and disrupted it all. No matter how it played out, Mike Tyson already came out saying he witnessed the energy that night. He said he could feel the tension in the air when everyone was gathered in the crowd at that fight. Go ahead, hit that like button, subscribe, and tell me if you're rocking with Tupac. Let me know straight up if you think this whole thing was a setup. Jada Pinkett Smith, every time she looked at Diddy, Tupac was on her mind. And don't forget, Jada and Tupac were extremely close. Honestly, it felt like they could have ended up together if things hadn't gone the way they did that night. Man, what happened to Tupac was foul. Nobody should go out like that, especially someone who was actually making an impact and helping people. Yeah, his music stirred controversy and he called people out, but he was doing that long before this new wave even existed. And then you turn around and hear records like Dear Mama showing a completely different side of him. Come on now, we all know Tupac had timeless classics. Drop it in the comments if you think they did him dirty. I'm just glad more information is finally coming out, because now we might actually see the truth unfold. And listen, if Snoop Dogg had any involvement, that would change everything, because that would be a betrayal on a whole different level. The feds are reportedly still digging into Tupac's case, and yeah, Snoop Dogg's name has come up, along with the history of their issues. Now keep this in mind, Greg Kading has been working this case for over 20 years, and after 28 years, they finally came back around to Keefe D. Keefe D kept putting himself out there, doing interviews and talking about his role and what happened. And let's be real, he's known as a major figure tied to the Crips. We also know Tupac linked up with Mike Tyson before everything went left that night. Then, just like that, things escalated and Tupac ended up getting shot. Rest in peace, Tupac. My condolences go out to his family because they're the ones still living with this pain. Reports say Keefe D was in the car, shots coming from multiple directions, and no matter who pulled the trigger, it was wrong. No excuses, because from what's being said, Tupac wasn't even trying to be involved in certain situations tied to Snoop Dogg and Suge Knight. Remember, they were all under death row records at the time. Tupac didn't want to get caught up in that internal conflict, but things got blown out of proportion. Snoop Dogg was reportedly speaking out of self-defense, trying to protect himself and warning anyone who came near him. That situation on the plane showed just how tense everything had become. They were leaving after a show, and things were already heated. Tupac was supposed to be on a different flight, but plans changed at the last minute. He even asked if security could come along, but Suge Knight shut that down and told him he had to ride alone.
While everyone wondered who killed Tupac, Snoop blamed the man that was driving the car he got shot in that night.
The most feared figure in all of hip-hop.
You put all of our lives in jeopardy like that, you don't care about Pop.
And confronted him face to face.
Come up to my room, there ain't gonna be nobody in there, just me and you. This either the moment you gonna kill me, and we're gonna get some clarity in this air.
But did Snoop Dogg know something was going to happen that night?
The next day, when we turned on the news, all we seen was the yellow tape, and it just was all bad.
Shakur was shot 4 times after leaving the Mike Tyson boxing match in Las Vegas in a car driven by Marion Suge Knight, head of its label, Death Row Records.
You really can't have someone putting themselves in that kind of situation with no way to respond. Listen to this. When you're stuck on a plane, no protection, no backup, there's not much you can do if things go wrong. And that right there is what made everything escalate even more. It started to create tension, and Snoop Dogg began looking at Tupac a little differently. Because deep down, Snoop knew Tupac was still moving under Suge Knight's influence. And hold up, every real Tupac fan already knows how that dynamic played out. If you rock with Tupac, go ahead and drop that RIP Tupac in the comments, because what happened to him was foul. And I'ma say this, if they end up tying more than one person to this case, it's gonna shake everything up, especially after how long it took just to bring in Keefe D and build enough evidence to move forward. Because let's be real, he basically told on himself. He admitted his role, said he passed the weapon, and even mentioned that Von Zip allegedly took part of the money from the hit. Now that's where things get even deeper. Keep in mind, there have been claims floating around that P. Diddy might have been connected to it. Some reports even suggested $1 million payment, but hold up, I can't confirm how accurate that really is. I'm not going to act like I know every detail about what Diddy supposedly did, especially with everything else going on around him right now. But what I do know is this. People keep bringing Snoop Dogg's name back into the conversation, and now they're saying he may have had some kind of plan or issue tied to Suge Knight, which just adds another layer to an already complicated story.